Hi, and welcome to the Marketing for Book Coaches podcast. This is the place to be for any book coach out there who's a little bit lost in the tricky world of marketing. I invite the best marketing experts to share their secrets so that you can focus on what is really important, the book coaching. Once in a while, I bring on niche book coaches to share the specific marketing strategies that has helped them succeed in their unique areas of strategies of expertise. Whether you're still searching your niche or looking to refine, the insight of these conversations are applicable to anyone who wants to stand out in their particular field of expertise. In this episode, we will explore the unique challenges and opportunities of marketing yourself as a faith-based book coach. We'll uncover strategies that resonate with your faith while attracting clients who share your values. And to talk about this subject today, I invited a successful Christian faith-based book coach who has mastered blending faith with business. She empowers faith-driven entrepreneurs to become self-published authors within a year. She leads the Inkwell Collective, a membership community for Christian writers. She's also the host of the Ink and Impact podcast, dedicated to helping Christian writers bring their books to life. Get your earbuds ready to be blown away by Dalene Bickel. Hi, Delene.
Hi, Anne. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you so much for coming on because it's quite late where you are. So I always appreciate that you're doing that extra effort to come on,
Oh, it's my pleasure.
especially as you're going to talk about a very interesting topic, which is faith-based book coaching. But before we start talking about your marketing techniques, maybe we have to come back to the basics. How did you find your niche as a faith-based book coach?
Well, that actually, I was a commissioned biographer by trade. Started my business in 2006. I was writing personal histories and doing that, enjoying that. 2020 came. We all know what happened. It was the lockdown. And I was without a client at that time. And I was just really into God's word and reading and spending a lot of time in prayer. And I distinctly got a call, a word from God saying, call my writers. And I didn't know exactly what that meant. There were no other explanations. But I just started to reach out to, at first, just Christian writers. And that's whenever I started the Inkwell, the writing community. I also started the podcast at that time, and I just started gaining some traction. More and more people were reaching out to me, and so supportive, and they were so glad to hear this kind of information specifically for Christian writers. And then more recently, I have started to help faith-based entrepreneurs and founders write business books that are faith-based. It's just adding your faith to the book as far as how God has worked in your business, how he has worked in your daily life. Maybe it's just as simple as putting a Bible verse at the beginning of each chapter. It doesn't have to be anything overt, but just helping faith-based business owners feel comfortable in sharing their stories while also serving their readers in such a valuable, practical way.
Oh, I love that you make that distinction because for me, indeed, when I was thinking about faith-based book coach, I was thinking, okay, these are people who support writers who really want to write books about their faith. But actually, you work with those people who really
Yes.
want to do the fiction or non-fiction books around faith, but also with the writers who don't necessarily want to write that kind of book,
Yes.
but who have that faith-based, that's faith-based actually, yeah.
Yes. Yes. I think, especially in the business world, but for everyone, but especially in the business world, there seems to be a dichotomy of where you have to separate your faith from business, right? And you have to be very careful. In some industries, you really do have to be very careful about what you say and when you say it and everything. But as Christians, it infiltrates our entire lives. We shouldn't separate both, and we don't need to. And so I'm just trying to encourage writers to be able to step out confidently and boldly and do it in a God-honoring way that is a quality book.
Oh, I really love that because yeah, it's the kind of thing when you think about your niche, we think, okay, this has to be very specific, but actually can be very specific and still keep it open to the wider world.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes.
Um, you already touched a little bit upon the fact that sometimes it can be difficult to write those kind of books and to share because you need to know what to say, when to say it. When I think about faith, this, especially in our current political climate, it's not always the easiest way to talk about it. So, of course, I understand you have the call. You're like, I follow this call and I go until the end, following what God asked me to do.
Yes.
But were you not afraid of the negative reactions?
Oh yes. Oh yes. Being very real here, it has to be a conscious decision about what you're going to do. And I don't think that everyone has to do exactly what I'm doing. I think that God calls us each uniquely in different ways, and just to take one little step of faith at a time, right? Just take one step forward and, just let him lead you.
Yeah, exactly. But still, it's not easy.
It is not easy. No, it's not.
Yeah. Did you actually get any like backlash, or people say, "Oh, this is a bit weird," or
I have not, at least not yet.
No,
That
yeah,
might
yeah.
be coming. No, actually, I have gotten the opposite reaction. Several people have reached out to me and thanked me for that, and thanked me for being bold in my messaging. But there have been those days where it's like, well, maybe if I wasn't quite so niche, maybe I could get a few more clients. Whenever in between clients is when those thoughts really come in, right? But it all comes down to, what is God telling you to do at this specific moment?
Yes, yes, exactly. It's also like, and even for those who don't believe, it is finding what is really important for them, and go into that niche completely. Because, like you say, we all have those days of like, oh, if you just could do a little bit bigger.
Yes.
But we also need to know what exactly it is that we want to do with our book coaching business, right?
Yes.
What I always say, like, if you want to do what everyone does, go back in corporate. But if you do an entrepreneur, it's so difficult, it's so exhausting. This is the way you can go crazy and do whatever you want to do.
Yes, exactly.
So now you have found your niche, you got that calling, you decided to lean into it. How has your marketing evolved? How have you started in your business saying, okay, now I just focus on that one?
So it has really prompted me to step out of my comfort zone, because I think I'm a writer as well, and a lot of writers are introverts by nature. But it's really prompted me to step outside my comfort zone, because how am I going to find these clients if I am just isolating myself? So I'm doing both in-person networking. I've also found different online groups for like faith-based entrepreneurs and Christian writers, and not just joining those groups, or not just showing up at a big event, but actually talking to people about what I do. And that can be very intimidating at times, for anyone of whatever niche you are serving. But you have to be willing to step out and talk about what you do. I think a lot of times we think that social media is it, because we can just type some posts, or we can buy some ads and we won't have to talk to anybody really. But that is where the connections are made, and that's where you're going to really build trust and gain clients.
Yes, exactly. And is the fact that you, so once you decided I'm a faith-based book coach, did you immediately go to the very specific marketing channels, like the Christian groups, like the churches, that kind of specific marketing
So I didn't
environments?
I didn't go to the churches. I have not yet, but I did go to Christian online groups specifically, and started getting plugged in there, and just local business networking that are secular in nature, and going there and interacting with people, and just testing the waters and seeing how things are going. And so far it's gone well.
That's an interesting one that you're talking about, the secular networking groups, because of course, this is always something that I say to my book coach. Everybody wants to be a writer today. So it's very difficult to say, oh, my writer is going to be there, 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 there. You have to figure out where you attract the most clients, and where you are comfortable as well. So can you talk a little bit, how does that work? You go to the secular networking group, you put it out there saying, I'm a Christian-based book coach, or you wait for the conversation to develop? How does it go?
So basically what I have done so far is just say that I'm a book coach helping people write their books. And then whenever I give them my business cards or they go to my LinkedIn profile, it's very clear when they go to my website and to my LinkedIn profile exactly who I serve. So at that point, they can say, that's not for me, or, oh, I didn't know that about her. And I am a Christian too. So it allows them to to decide for themselves whether or not I'm the right fit for them.
I absolutely love that you're saying that about your website, Delene, because it's indeed true. When you go on Delene's website, there's no secret that you are a Christian faith-based book coach. And that brings me to your marketing, because you were a generalist before. You didn't talk that much about your faith. Have to redo everything, like your website, your social profile, all of that? Has that been also one of those differences compared to what you did before when you were more of a generalist?
Well, I've maintained the sites, but I've definitely changed the wording for sure. And some of the lead magnets or offers that I offer have changed a little bit, but for the most part, they've remained the same.
Okay. Can you give a little, like, a concrete example of how you changed the wording? Maybe about your lead magnet. If the lead magnet, how did you change your lead magnet, for example?
Well, for example, whenever for Lasting Legacies, publishing my company, when I was just doing commissioned biographies of people's life stories, the main web page was all about, if you want your life story written, I'm here to help you, and that was basically it. And I really didn't have much of a lead magnet. It was a basic, here's how to record yourself talking on your phone if you want to start on your own. But now that I have added to that, I have created a separate page specifically for faith-driven entrepreneurs that I point them specifically to that page. And so they can look at that. And then I have a specific lead magnet, which is Bookworthy Framework, that incorporates how they can add their faith into their stories and that kind of thing.
So would you say that now having that niche, has it made it easier for you to create your content as well, like the lead magnet?
It has. Yes, I hadn't really thought about it before you asked that question, but it has. Yes.
It's one of the reasons I always insist for my book coaches, find your niche, because it makes it so much easier from the marketing perspective, from the content, from everything. Because when you're a generalist, it's just everyone, right?
Yes.
Now for you, even like to come back to what you said about your website, you are putting up a big filter because it's not just about having people who are Christians, it's also sharing the same values as you share, right?
Yes, exactly. And if someone were to contact me and say, I'm not a professing Christian, but I really want to work with you, I would be willing to learn more about their story as long as it doesn't like overtly contradict what I believe. I'm happy to work with them as well. I just want them to know up front who they're working with, so they're not blindsided down the road, right?
Yeah, exactly. Have you had people who were not Christians who wanted to work with you?
I have not yet, but I have been thinking through if that were to happen, this is, how I would handle that.
Yeah, that it's also one of the advantages, right? If you have that very specific niche, should you have a non-Christian author who has an exciting project, you can still say, okay, I'm taking it on. But it makes it also easier if you have someone who's not a Christian and who comes with a project that you're not interested, to say, I'm sorry, I don't work with that.
Yes.
Okay. Have you is it like one social media that you say that really helped me so much in launching or relaunching my business? Because you're actually talking about a relaunch in your case.
Yes. Yeah. So for sure, that has changed a lot. Like my website stayed pretty much the same except for the wording, but I have totally switched my social channels. I had been on Instagram where there are tons of authors and writers, and I made lots of contacts there. But now that I am focusing currently on faith-driven entrepreneurs, LinkedIn is where I'm spending all of my time. And I have really enjoyed learning that and growing there and connecting with people on LinkedIn. And yeah, it's been really a good experience.
And what is the explanation you think that you can no longer be on Instagram, but that you switched from Instagram to LinkedIn?
For me, it was because even though I know there are a lot of business people on Instagram, and I've been surprised lately at how many men are on Instagram.
Oh, okay. So if your niche is man people, Instagram?
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised because actually a lot of my biography clients have always been men. So I was like, oh, Instagram's probably not for them, but that's beside the point. But they're both on there, men and women. But no, but since my focus is on business owners, it made sense to move to LinkedIn, which is all about business and connecting people, connecting business people. So that's where I have seen the most growth for sure.
Ah, okay. So for you, it was more that you thought your audience would be there. You were already on LinkedIn before, or is it something
I
completely
was, but I wasn't very active, and I did not have a refined profile at all. I've been doing a lot of work lately to beef that up.
Yeah, if you are like Dalene, I have also put an episode on how to set up your LinkedIn profile, so you will find it in the description.
Yes,
It's not easy. It's not easy.
yeah, it's not easy, but it's definitely worth the work. If that's where your audience is, yeah, it's definitely worth taking the time to create a really good LinkedIn profile.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Something else I would like to talk about regarding from a marketing perspective is your content. So before you were a generalist, I guess you didn't speak that much about your faith. Now you're a faith-based book coach. Has your content strategy completely changed in the sense that like now everything that you put out there is really with that faith base?
Not everything. It's kind of like what I was talking about with the content of a book, right? So where it makes sense, you bring it up. If there's maybe I'll have read in my Bible and a certain verse that morning sticks out when I'm recording my podcast, I might say, hey, this stood out to me this morning. This is how I think it could apply to writers. I might share it that way. But most of my content centers around how I'm going to serve the potential client, right? How am I going to help them write, self-publish, or market their books? And so the content is primarily about those efforts.
Okay, great. And is there, because I see like, for example, your podcast, you have some, so as a reminder, it's Ink and Impact podcast. You have some great, very specific episodes. Like I love the one, The Risk of Compromise as the Christian Author. That is so specific. Is there like, do you see that content really resonates more with your audience than it did before?
It's hard to say because I really didn't do the podcast before. So it's always been to a Christian audience. But like in that particular episode, that was just something that I felt really burdened about. There were some things that I saw going on in current events and different things in the publishing industry. And so that's really why I chose to share about that on that episode.
Okay. And this is an episode you would not have done if you were a generalist, for example.
No.
So it did make a change in the way you promote yourself.
Yes, in general, yeah. But I was thinking more specifically about the podcast. But yes, my other content on the blog or on social posts and everything, yeah.
By the way, I really love the podcast. So if you're a faith-based Christian writer, always would want to go see, because there was also one, for example, cultivating a Christian author's mindset, or why you should attend the Christian Writers Conference. So definitely episodes to check out. What has been the most significant change in your business since you start focusing on your niche?
The most significant change in my business. Really, it's been around my own marketing. That has been the biggest change in what I'm just continually revising and working on. And, like I said, stepping out of my comfort zone and speaking to different groups of people. So,
yeah, you talk about different kinds of people. When we had our little introduction call before having this podcast, you also talked to me about community, which is very important to you, and that it did change that you got that bigger community since you went on your niche.
That's true. Yes. Yes. The Inkwell writing community for Christian writers, it is, I just threw out on social media and in my email list that I was starting this community, and I first only had one person. She's been very loyal this entire time, still with me since almost 4 years now. But then she would speak to someone, and then someone else would join, and then I'd just keep, advertising about it. And God has brought a small group. And a lot of times we as entrepreneurs, we want, to go for the big numbers, right? We think that it's all about having a large number of followers on social. It's all about having a large community. That's all we hear about, right? Numbers, 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 even dollar numbers, right? But and one day when I was like, oh Lord, it's just not growing. It's been 4 years and we've been at this small number for so long. But then he's like, but look at who I brought you, right? We have become such friends, right? And we pray together at the Inkwell, and it's just been such a blessing of who he has brought. And in that intimate setting, we wouldn't be able to share as much as if it was hundreds of people. So one of the members says she loves to remind us all not to despise the small or humble beginnings. And I forget which Bible verse that's in reference to, but that's so true, because sometimes we don't need a lot. There's a lot of noise out there that we're all trying to aspire to listen to for whatever reason, right? But there's a lot of value in just having close connections in small numbers at times.
Yeah, and what is again an advantage of having the niche. It doesn't matter if you have 1,000 people in your community, but everybody has different ideas or different objectives, rather than having that very small community that is based upon the same values, the same objectives, the same way of seeing things.
Yes. Yes.
Niching is the way.
It really is.
So I would really like to continue asking you lots of other questions, Dalene, because you have so many wisdom to share with us. One last question is, could you share an example where your unique focus really resonated with a client or helped you navigate a particular challenge in a way that would have been possible otherwise?
So I'm not quite sure if this is going to exactly answer your question, but the one thing that came to my mind was how focusing on my copywriting for my website, especially on my coaching page, has been so valuable. I literally got a new client, they landed on that page and they were sold. But, and this is something I wanted to share with your audience too, is to always make sure that you are available to be contacted in the way that your specific audience wants to be contacted. So in this case, this person wanted to speak to me by phone because she didn't want to invest money until she knew this was a legitimate person, because she just found me, through Google, right? Which makes total sense. So, I actually have a free Google number that I use for my business. I don't know if anybody knows that you can get that for your business, totally free. And so I gave her that number. We were able to talk on the phone, and she was like, okay, I just wanted to know you were real. Sign me up. And so just being available, knowing your audience, like who's your target ideal client, and knowing who they are, what their age bracket, because I typically tend to attract older individuals, and they love telephone, right? They grew up on talking on the telephone. And so to be able to give that access, it makes all the difference, right? But also, have the systems in place for the younger crowd, if that's your audience as well, or if you serve both, have both. But just really paying attention to that. And she was just very grateful to find a Christian writing coach. So she mentioned that to me. And another individual I met through LinkedIn, which again is more copywriting and SEO, learning all that. We had a really great introductory conversation on LinkedIn, that then we had a phone discovery call and on Zoom. And at the end of it, he was just thanking me for, being able to boldly step out at being as a Christian book coach. He said, I've not discovered one yet like that before. So we're in negotiations. So it all depends, to be willing to go to where your audience is, know who your audience is, first of all, then go to them, and then be willing to talk to them about it, right?
And I would like to add also knowing what you want, because in the examples, it always comes back to that. Of course, you still have to do the sale, you still have to have that conversation. But if that person really wants a Christian faith-based book coach, half of your work is already done before you get even on the call.
Yes, very true.
I love to finish with that one. If we want to learn more about you, where can we find you?
I recommend everyone, if you are on LinkedIn, that is currently my platform of choice. It's just simply at Dalene Bickel. And then my website, I believe, Anne, you'll probably put this in the show notes.
Absolutely.
The Lasting Legacies publishing website it's an odd one to say out over the airwaves. It's just easier if you click the link.
No worries, everything will be in the description. So
the .com was gone. Let's just say it that way.
The .com was gone.
So I had to go with a long way around.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Now I will have a look more in detail about what's going on with the .com. And for the Christian authors who are watching us, you also have a brilliant framework that you put at their disposal.
Yes, it's called Bookworthy Framework, and you can literally go to bookworthyframework.com to sign up for that. And I also have my Bookworthy Academy. We'll be launching another self-publishing course soon. Everyone can get on the wait list for that. And again, I'll have you put the link in the descriptions for that.
Yes, all the links will be in the description. You just have to look under the video.
Yes.
Or on the podcast, it's in the podcast description.
Right. Yes, so I would love to get to, meet people and talk on LinkedIn, or send me through my contact form on website, whatever. I'm happy to meet new people and fellow writers and book coaches.
Yes, and as Dalene learned us today, you can find always way to be available for any of your audience, whether it's on the phone or the newer systems.
Yes, absolutely.
And that is it for us today. So as a resume, I think we can just take one takeaway of this session, which is make a conscious decision of what you want to do, as Dalene said in the beginning of this podcast episode. And that's a wrap for today's episode of Marketing for Book Coaches. If you enjoyed this chat and you want to have more of this episode right into your email box, don't forget to sign up for the newsletter. You'll get exclusive content, and you'll be the first to know when the waitlist opens, for example, for my group program. Until next time, stay true to your calling, keep writing with purpose, and let your faith guide your pen if you are a faith-based book coach like Dalene. Have a great day. Bye-bye.